Jesus restores. Have you ever tried to restore or refinish an old piece of furniture? Seems like when I was a kid, we always had something in our basement that we were trying to refinish or restore. And it seemed like, I don't know where they came up with it, but I don't think they went to the store and bought it, but they mixed up and made this ugly green looking paint. And they painted all the furniture. I guess they didn't want to buy new furniture or whatever, so they just painted it. So, it used to be just called old furniture, so they painted it. Well, now it's called antiques. But it used to be just called old furniture, they paint it. And again, especially my mom and all, we would try to refinish and take this old green paint off the furniture all the time and restore it. We've got a round table in my mom's house now that you look at it now and you could never imagine it as a green table. But that's what it used to be. And we were constantly in these little nooks and crannies and sandpaper and this paint stripper, all this stuff we were using to try and restore this furniture. Well, Jesus is in the restoring business. Jesus is the one that's stripping away that old paint that we've all been painted, this green, ugly sin color of paint we've been painted, but Jesus is restoring us. And we're going to take a look at that today. And as threatened or promised, however you want to look at it, we're not leaving the story of Resurrection Sunday. So with that, we'll be starting off in Mark 16. In verse 2, very early in the morning on the first day of the week, they came to the tomb when the sun had risen, and they said among themselves, "Who will roll away the stone from the door of the tomb for us?" But when they looked up, they saw that the stone had been rolled away, for it was very large. And entering the tomb, they saw a young man clothed in a long white robe sitting on the right side, and they were alarmed. But he said to them, "Do not be alarmed. You seek Jesus of Nazareth, who was crucified. He is risen. He is not here." Yeah. Amen. See the place where they laid him. Now here's what I want to get to today. But go and tell the disciples, and in my version there's a dash there for pause, but go and tell the disciples and Peter, and there's another dash for another pause there, that he is going before you into Galilee. Remember that. There you will see him as he said to you. Can you imagine the faith of these ladies? They were coming to the tomb early on in the morning to anoint Jesus' body, and they're getting there, and then they're thinking, uh-oh, who's going to roll away this big stone? Well, they must have had some faith there that somebody was going to roll it away. I'm sure they were looking at each other, and they get there, and the stone's already rolled away. And they go in, they walk in, they see this, we call an angel, this young man, it says, dressed in this white clothing, and says the beautiful words, "He has risen, he is not here." And yeah, we celebrate that on Resurrection Sunday or Easter Sunday, but I don't know about you, but I'm not ready to move on from Resurrection Sunday yet. And we're celebrating that today, that he is not here, he is risen. And we can celebrate that all the time. Jesus came, what did Jesus come to do? To seek and save the lost. He came to strip away that old paint, to restore each and every one of us. But it's interesting here, the angel says, go tell the disciples, and there's a pause there, and Peter, that Jesus has been risen. Well, Peter was one of the disciples. So the angel could have said, just go tell Peter. But he made a point of it, and tell Peter. Why single out Peter? Why make it a big deal to make sure Peter knows. Or for us to get the full understanding of why the angel said, and Peter, we're going to do a Reader's Digest condensed version, but we're going to go through the life of Peter real quickly. I promise it'll be quick. But we're going to go through the life of Peter and see what we can learn from the life of Peter. We'll start off in Matthew 14. In verse 28. Matthew 14:28. And Peter answered him and said, Lord, if it is you, command me to come to you on the water. So Jesus said, come. And when Peter had come down out of the boat, he walked on the water to go to Jesus. But when he saw the wind was boisterous, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, he cried out, saying, Lord, save me. So here we see Peter and some of the other disciples out on a boat. Jesus comes walking to them on the water, and Peter makes a demand on Jesus. He said, if it's you, tell me to come to you. Well, what was Jesus going to do? No, Peter, it's not really me. No. Well, Jesus' only choice was to say, come. And one word from Jesus, Peter jumps out of the boat and starts walking on the water. But it's interesting here, he said he saw the wind, and the wind was really boisterous or really blowing hard. Well, if the wind wasn't blowing at all, and it was a day like today, 70-some degrees and calm seas, could Peter walk on the water? No. In the natural, he couldn't have. So that no matter the wind or the waves, what Peter was doing was a miraculous thing based on one word from Jesus. He said, come. But when Peter took his eyes off Jesus and started looking at the wind, it says here that he cried out because he started to sink, Lord, save me. And then Jesus responds in 31. And immediately, Jesus stretched out his hand and caught him and said to him, O you of little faith, why did you doubt? Why did you doubt? What's interesting here, I think sometimes, I know I have, read this verse wrong. We'll get it worked out because it's got to be worked out in Jesus' name. We look at Peter walking on the water. And we look at this verse, O you of little faith. O you of little faith. Why do you doubt? Why was Peter able to walk on the water and not able to walk on the water? When we read this verse, we read it wrong, and we think Peter's not able to walk on the water because of his little faith. No, Jesus was telling him he was able to walk on the water because of his little faith. The reason he was not able to walk on the water was because of his doubt. Not because of his little faith is why he started to sink. Because Jesus said here, why do you doubt? So I think Jesus is showing us here little faith can cause us to walk on the water. We don't need mountain-moving faith. We've all been given the measure of faith. And from that measure of faith that we've all been given, we can walk on the water. Through one word from Jesus, Jesus said, come. But then Peter said, uh-oh. I'm looking at the wind, and doubt and unbelief started to sink in. So we can see from Peter's life, it isn't that we need more faith, but I need less of doubt and unbelief along the way. The problem isn't our lack of faith. The problem is our doubt and unbelief. That's where we must be removing from our walk with God, is that doubt and unbelief. And that what the man said that came to Jesus, I believe, help me with my unbelief. And I think we all can learn from Peter's life. That's what we need help with. Our doubt and unbelief along the way. Well, let's continue on this journey with Peter. Matthew 16. Bear with me while I go back here and get the computer. Matthew 16. What did I say? Verse 15, 17. Thank you. He said to them, "But who do you say I am?" Jesus talking to his disciples. "Who do you say I am?" Simon Peter answered and said, "You are the Christ, the Son of the living God." Jesus answered and said to him, "Blessed are you, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my Father who is in heaven." So Jesus was asking, who do people say I am? Simon said, "You are the Christ," and that's the same word used in the Old Testament for the word Messiah. You are the Christ. You are the anointed one. And then Jesus said, "Flesh and blood has not shown you this, but my Father who is in heaven has shown this to you." Sorry about this, folks. But I got a few visuals today that it really needs to work. Flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my Father who is in heaven has shown you. It's not from human knowledge that I am the Christ, the Son of the living God. Jesus goes on to say that on this rock, on this revelation of who Jesus was, that God would build his church. And Peter, hey, he got it right. You know, Peter didn't always get it right. But in verse 17, he said, "Blessed are you, Simon Bar-Jonah, for flesh and blood has not revealed this to you, but my Father who is in heaven." Then he goes on to tell the disciples that, hey, you know, I'm going to be arrested. And don't tell anybody who I am, but I'm going to be arrested and they're going to kill me. And then Peter, when Peter heard this, Peter just got praise from, hey, you're listening to God. You're not listening to man, but you're listening to God, because man didn't reveal this to you, that I am the Son of the living God. But now, in my Bible, just about 5 verses later, I don't know how long a time this was, but this was just a few minutes later, in Matthew 16 and verse 22. And then picture this. Then Peter took him, Jesus, aside and began to rebuke him, saying, "Far be it from you, Lord, this shall not happen to you." Are you kidding me? Peter had just called him the Messiah, the Son of the living God, and now what's Peter doing? He's rebuking Jesus. Wow, that takes some guts. I don't know about you, but wow, that takes a lot of guts to rebuke Jesus. And then Jesus responds in Matthew 16:23. But he turned and said to Peter, "Get behind me, Satan. You are an offense to me, for you are not mindful of the things of God, but the things of men." Wow. Get thee behind me, Satan. So in a matter of about 5 or 6 verses, Jesus to Peter saying, hey, you're listening to God. You didn't hear this from man. Blessed are you, Simon. Now, 5, 6 verses later, he's saying, get thee behind me, Satan. You're not mindful, meaning you're not thinking on the things of God. You're not thinking on the things that I'm telling you. It says you are not mindful, and you're an offense to me. Get thee behind me, Satan. Jesus was not calling Peter Satan. He was not calling Peter Satan. He was speaking to the voice behind what was coming out of Peter's mouth. He knew Peter wasn't mindful now of what God was saying, but he was listening to other voices going against the will of God. And that's why Jesus spoke to the root, so to speak, spoke to the real cause and said, Satan, I know you're talking through Peter, get thee behind me. And I don't know about you, but have you ever felt that way in your life? One day you feel like you're getting everything right, you're on fire for God, and you almost hear Jesus saying, blessed are you, PG. And then it just seems like maybe hours or days or weeks later, you hear, get thee behind me. Because we're not mindful, we're listening to other voices. And I think we can learn that from Peter's life, that we can go from hot to cold for Jesus. What's that?
Sometimes in minutes and seconds.
Minutes and seconds. I think here in Matthew 16, it was minutes. Blessed are you. Get behind me, Satan. And I think you read in the Gospels, Peter's life was kind of that way. Woo. I think Peter believed in open mouth, insert foot a lot of times. Well, then he goes on. Let's continue Peter's life in Matthew 18. In verse 21. Then Peter came to him and said, Lord, how often shall my brother sin against me and I forgive him? Up to 7 times? Woohoo! Look at me, Lord. My brother comes against me and I'm going to forgive him 7 times. And we read that and Peter didn't pick out 7 times just out of the sky. 7 times, if you read the book of Leviticus, that was under the law. The law said you had to forgive your brother that came against you, sinned against you 7 times. So in essence, Peter was saying, look at me, look at me. I'll forgive my brother 7 times. But when Jesus came, he raised the bar. 7 times wasn't enough. He goes on in verse 22. Jesus said to him, I do not say to you up to 7 times, but up to 70 times 7. For those that may be mathematically challenged, that's 490 times. So Jesus was saying, okay, the old covenant said 7 times. But I'm coming with the new covenant and I'm raising the bar. 490 times. With Jesus, it was hard enough for 7 times. 490 times, how can that be? Jesus was showing Peter and us, we can't do that. On our own, we cannot forgive somebody 490 times. That's impossible. But with Christ, we can forgive our brothers or sisters 490 times.
That's right.
And if you look at it in context, you look at it in the other Gospels, 490 times is in a day. Maybe in my life, I've needed forgiven 490 times. But I don't think on my worst day that I've needed forgiven 490 times in a day. But Jesus, God will not ask anything of us that he doesn't do himself. So that 490 times, we look at that from me to you or you to me. But that's also the standard God puts on himself to you and I. What is he going to forgive us? 490 times in a day. In a day. Wow. I've messed up a lot in a day. But again, I don't know about 490 in one day.
I've been awfully close.
I've been awfully close. All right, Jacob, but you've been close. You haven't got there yet. So you're still in good shape, brother. You're still in good shape. Moving on in Peter's life in Matthew 26. Here's where it gets a little serious. Matthew 26 and verse 31. Then Jesus said to them, all of you will be made to stumble because of me this night, for it is written, I will strike the shepherd, and the sheep of the flock will be scattered. But after I've been raised, I will go before you to Galilee. That's exactly what the angel had said at the tomb, that Jesus was going to Galilee. Peter answered and said to him, even if all are made to stumble because of you, I will never be made to stumble. Never be made to stumble. That's a great declaration Peter made. Wow. And I'm sure he was expecting from Jesus, I don't know, but I'm sure he was expecting from Jesus, way to go, boy. But what did Jesus say? Verse 34. Jesus said to him, assuredly I say to you that this night before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times. 3 times. But Peter said to him, Peter had a comeback for that. Peter said to him in verse 35, even if I have to die with you, I will not deny you. And so said all the disciples. Peter was pretty adamant. I will not deny you. No matter what happens, Jesus, I'm not going to deny you. I'm going to stick with you to the very end. And then what happened? We'll read that in a minute, but I got an audio that's got to take place. So bear with me. But imagine this. Jesus said, you will deny me, after Peter said, I will not, I will not. We see here, Peter said, I will not deny you. Peter was saying all the right things. Jacob, could you give me my Bible? I took my Bible back there, please. Thank you, brother. But then, Jesus became very real with Peter and told him what was going to happen. Thank you, Jacob. Then in Matthew 26, verse 73. Matthew 26, verse 73. And a little later, those who stood by came and said to Peter, surely you also are one of them, for your speech betrays you. Then he began to curse and swear, saying, I do not know the man. The most terrifying words, I believe, in the Bible. I do not know this man. And immediately a rooster crowed. And Peter remembered the words of Jesus, who had said to him, before the rooster crows, you will deny me 3 times. So he went out and wept bitterly. You know me, I'm a picture person. So I want us to close our eyes for a few minutes and imagine Peter. They said he was warming himself by the fire, and it was at night. For all you people who have chickens, how many times do you hear a rooster crowing at night? So this rooster crowed at night. So let's close our eyes for a few minutes and just picture what Peter may have been going through. Scary sound. Peter knew it was all over. He knew he'd gone too far. He knew he'd had too much green paint on him at this time. So what did Peter do? He went back to his old life. He went back to the way that he was used to. Instead of being a fisher of men, he went back to being a fisherman. Back to his old way of life because he'd known he'd gone too far. Well, we're fast forward. Jesus was crucified, and 3 days later he rose again. The angel said, "Go and tell the disciples," and Peter, that 3 days earlier heard that rooster crow and thought it was all over. But then Jesus came to the beach that morning to restore Peter. John 21, verse 15. So when they had eaten breakfast, Jesus said to Simon Peter, "Simon, son of Jonah, do you love me more than these?" Do you love me more than these? And he said to him, "Yes, Lord, you know I love you." He said to him, "Feed my lambs." Feed my lambs. Then verse 16, he said to him again a second time, "Simon, son of Jonah, do you love me?" He said to him, "Yes, Lord, you know I love you." He said to him, "Tend my sheep." The word love that Jesus used was agape in Greek, meaning the God kind of love. No conditions, no string attached. I love you with everything. Peter replied with the phileo word for love, meaning a friendship kind of love. And see where Jesus is taking them. First of all, feed my lambs, meaning little ones. Then he takes them to tend my sheep, the older ones. And then verse 17. He said to him the third time, "Simon, son of Jonah, do you love me?" And this third time, Jesus comes and meets Peter where he's at. And that word love is phileo, meaning a friendship kind of love. Peter was grieved because he said to him the third time, "Do you love me?" And he said to them, "Lord, you know all things. You know I love you." Jesus said to him, "Feed my sheep." Jesus could have came back, and in top of my Bible, it says Jesus reinstates Peter. Reinstate means to put back, to establish again in a former position. It's interesting here, Jesus didn't say, "Well, Peter, are you going to be stronger next time? You got to be stronger, brother. You got to be stronger." No. Did he even ask Peter, "Peter, did you repent for swearing that you didn't know me?" Not just saying you don't know me, but swearing that you didn't know me. Jesus didn't ask him that. What did he ask him, Peter? "Do you love me?" Folks, that's what it's all about. Do you love me? Love is the issue. What's love got to do with it? Everything. Love is the key. Jesus told him, if you truly love me, what are you going to do? You're going to minister to my people. You're going to feed my lambs. You're going to tend to my sheep. You're going to feed my sheep. I've got there in the insert, God has never had anybody qualified working for him yet. And I'm at the top of the list. He doesn't look for qualified people. When he calls you to do what he's called you to do in your life, he's going to qualify you. Peter wasn't qualified. Peter was that roller coaster ride, hot, cold, hot, cold. I'm going to go with you to the death. No, I don't know this man. Feed my little ones. Tend my sheep. Tend means to keep and protect. And then feed my sheep. True love will produce service. That's what he's trying to tell you and I. Out of a true love for Jesus, we will serve him. Service does not produce love. It's the other way around. Jesus restores us through his love so we can be of service to him. Jesus is alive today to make things right with you and I. Do not walk around with guilt and shame. Been there and done that. Got a t-shirt to show from it. Don't walk around. We love John 3:16, but I love John 3:17. Jesus did not come to condemn the world, but to save the world. And when we're dealing with guilt and shame, you know what we're doing? Oh, I'm not good enough. Oh, I've done too much wrong. We're dealing with me. And let me shock you here for a minute. It's not about you. It's all about Jesus. It's all about his grace. It's all about he is risen. We are forgiven. In Acts 2, Peter goes on and does some feeding and tending. Peter got up after hearing the rooster crow and thinking all is over, going back to his old way of life. Peter gets up and preaches a short sermon that 3,000 men, we don't know how many women and children, but 3,000 men came forward to join the church. We talk about revival, and we need to talk about revival and great awakenings. What does it come from? Love. Love of God. And working through his power, Peter couldn't do it on his own, but the day of Pentecost, the power fell upon him, and he got up, and wow. God is not a God of second, third, or fourth, or fifth chances. God is a God of another chance. So do you need another chance? I know I have plenty of times. When Jesus' name, this video will work. But I want to show this video. Again, you know me, it's a picture kind of thing. And I think we can read these scriptures, and they're meaningful, they're powerful. But I want to show this video to bring it home.
Jesus, it's you! You are alive, Peter! Oh my goodness. Okay, you saw me, right? You saw me? I was in the boat. I wasn't catching nothing. I'm telling you, nada. I'm in the boat. And I hear the voice. And the voice is saying, hey, cast your net to the other side, right? And then I hear the voice again, hey, cast your net to the other side. So on a whim, without looking up, I throw it over, and sure enough, a gaggle of fish pop into the net. A whole bunch of fish pop into the net. I'm like, what? Because over here, nothing, over here, something. A whole miracle, right? You know this about me. I process things out loud. And I'm totally going, this is a whole miracle. Who does miracles like this? Well, Jesus does miracles, but he's dead. And then boom, I look up, and there you are. And you are on the seashore looking at me, saying, inside the Lord. And so I can't believe it. You're here. Peter, yeah, you love me. Yes, I love you. Yes, I love you. Then feed my sheep. Andrew, get out of the boat. He's here. He's here. Come on, let's go. Peter. Yeah. Do you love me? Yes, I love you. Yes, hey, I'm so sorry about that rooster clucking. I had no idea what that meant, but I'm doing that one better for it. You know what I'm saying? Then feed my sheep. Andrew, I'm smiling, but I'm getting mad. Get on the boat. Come on. Peter. Yeah. Do you love me? Are you serious right now? You know everything. Jesus, you know everything. Do I love you? words cannot describe the passion that I have for you. I love you with everything that I am. I love you. Good. And feed my sheep. I didn't even know you had livestock. But they're so like you. There's something new about you every day that's I love about you. Peter, you remember the morning the ladies went to the tomb? Yeah, we were all in the room trying to figure out what to do next, right? And then Mary comes running up. And in my defense, I thought Mary was saying, beehive, beehive, beehive. And I'm like allergic to bees, like people know, right? But as she kept getting closer, I heard her correctly, and she was saying, he's alive, he's alive, he's alive. We're all looking at each other, we're all confused, right? And we're like, woo, woo, woo. And she said that the tomb was empty, and there was an angel there. And so me and John, we hightail it down there. And if John says he beat me, he's lying. I beat him, all right? FYI, right? And we get down there, and sure enough, the tomb is empty, right? I mean, there's just grave clothes. And you know this about me. I process things out loud. And I'm like looking in there, and I'm like, you know, but I asked the question. And I keep asking. And I was like looking at the tomb going, what does this mean? What does this mean? And John was right beside me. John is so good with words. He should write a book. He is so good with words, right? He said, Peter, don't you get it? This is everything Jesus said he was going to do. And he did it. It's done. This is so great. Come on, there's so much in here. Peter, now, what did the angel say to Mary? I just said, go tell the disciples and Peter that everything is okay. Yes, risen. You're risen. Come on, let's go. And the angel said, but tell the disciples and Peter. Go tell the disciples, Peter. You said my name. You said my name. Why did you say my name? Peter. That's grace. No, I don't deserve your grace. No. That whole night, people kept coming up to me, asking if I belonged to you, if I was with you. I denied you left and right. No, it was unforgivable. It'll take me my whole life to make up for what I did. No, you said I did it. Listen, friend. No. What I did for you on the cross was meant to take what is unforgivable and make it forgivable. Peter, it's not about you and what you've done. God's grace is based on me and what I've done. That's grace, my friend. That's grace.
Thank you for your patience. But for me, that drives it home. When we thought we'd gone too far, Jesus restores. And that's why I don't want to move away from Resurrection Sunday so quickly. Because Jesus restores. When we think we've gone beyond God's reach, the grace of Jesus reaches even farther. So my prayer for all of us today and every day is to know, maybe you've heard that rooster crow in your life. But know that God's a God of another chance. And it's all about what Jesus did and not about you and what you've done. Let us stand for a wonderful closing hymn, How Great Thou Art.